All right, so the recording is now in progress. My name is Hannah Lee. I am the YA Services Librarian at Belmont Public Library. Today we are doing 3 crafts. We are doing yarn balloons. This one's falling apart a little bit. We are doing pom-poms for bookmarks. And we are doing letter wrapped, yarn wrapped letters. All right, so first thing that we're gonna do is the yarn wrapped letters. And this one is just going to require a little bit of time. And if you have a piece of tape, that'd be great, just for the start. But if you don't, then you can just tuck it in. I'm just gonna take a little piece of tape and tape my yarn to the letter like that. And then we're just going to wrap it pretty methodically. So need to have it near the top. You don't have to wrap like this. We're going to try and wrap mainly as much as we can in one direction. So horizontally. So I'm going to start it like this. So if you have a name that has 2 prongs, just start on one prong and start wrapping down. And then we'll wrap upwards on the other side once we get to it. So I'm also, every time that there's a little gap that appears, I'm just kind of shifting the yarn upwards to fill that gap. And if you have cardboard, you can kind of finish out the rest of your initials or your name. What I did to measure out these individual pieces of cardboard was I basically just kind of gave myself how tall I wanted them to be. And then I took a plain piece of paper. You can also use a ruler just to kind of create different lines. So here I'm at a cross section. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down this dead end side first. And I'm not going to wrap it as tightly because I'm gonna go down and then back up again. So I'm gonna wrap maybe once every other one. So this one, we don't have to wrap as tightly or as neatly because we'll fix it on the way back up. And if you have any like extra pieces that kind of stick out, you can take your scissors and just kind of trim them off without cutting your yarn, hopefully. There. We used an X-Acto knife to cut the cardboard for your letters. And I just want to give a safety tip if you plan on doing more letters. Whenever you use an X-Acto knife, cut away from your hands at all times. So that means holding the piece of cardboard with one hand and then cutting away from that hand. I didn't want to involve X-Acto knives in the actual craft, but if you're going to continue this at home, some good safety tips. Okay, so I've made it to this end. I've only filled about half, and I'm going to go right back up to the top after completing the end. And I'm just going to use the yarn to fill up all the empty spaces that I left as I was going down. In this case, it's doing every other one, but if it was a little bit less for you, then it might be doing it every couple One of the things that I see most often on craft websites about concerning this craft is using multiple different colors of yarn so that you can kind of get a quilt-like feel for when you make it. I like the idea better of doing just one color for each side. Right, we are making it to the very end of this part. And if any of you are doing summer reading, the teen summer reading prizes, the raffle is going to raffle off on July 30th. So if you haven't signed up for summer reading yet and you want possibly Belmont Books gift cards, there's a $30 Visa gift card that's being raffled off on the 30th. So all you have to do is record what books you read in the summer, and we will give you free stuff in raffles. Right, so now I'm just going, make sure you type it in the chat just so that we don't have you on. Oh, this is not a creative bug craft. This is something that I put together for you guys. So there's no instruction video. There's just me showing you how to do it. It might be on Creative Bug though. I will give it to Creative Bug that they have a very large amount of crafts. So this is getting a little complicated. And you'll notice I don't really care about what's happening on the back. I'm mainly caring about what it looks like on the front. All right, so I'm going to give you guys some extra time to work on this. And if you want to, I'm going to let you guys vote in the chat. Do you want to just see the next tutorial or do you want to finish up this one before I move on to the next tutorial? You can type it in the chat. Oh, when you get to the corners, good thing. Basically what you're going to do is, I don't have it on this one because this is an N. But let's say that I'm going to do the corners here as if it is a right angle. You're basically going to fan it out and have them all reach towards the middle as you go through that. So basically what you're going to do is you're just going to have them all meet in the corner as you go into the different. So basically, you're going to take this and you're just going to have it wrap around continually until and reaching all throughout that corner until it's complete. So wrap it diagonally towards the corner. All right. So we'll go ahead and finish this one up. So in case you run into any issues, we'll be able to resolve them. And this is actually a really good fun thing that you can put on your door, unless you have the same initial as your siblings, and that would get confusing. But if you want to mark your door with this at home. And this is getting harder and harder for me because I'm getting closer to this section right here. So how are you doing on the corners? Looks good from here. Thumbs up. So I'm getting to this end. All right, so I'm going to be going back down. So I'm going to wrap this length. And here, I think I'm going to do a loose wrap up to this end and then go back down and double it up and then finish off at the very end of the end. All right, so far so good. And then I'm just going to finish up. Fortunately, the two crafts after this are not nearly as wrapping intensive. They are much more aesthetic, I guess you could say. And I think you'll have a lot of fun with the pom-pom bookmarks because you could make a whole bunch of them and you can just put them in all your books and you'll just have like this field of pom-poms across the top of your books at home. All right, I'm getting to the very end, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave a bit of a tail. I'm going to leave a bit of a tail here. And Erin, if you could just keep yourself muted. We are recording right now. And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a tail, and then I'm just going to, if you want, for some of you, I had a piece of tape wrapped around the end of your yarn. This is a good replacement for anything that requires a needle. So if you have a piece of tape and you want to wrap it around the end of your yarn, then you'll be able to use that to kind of weave the last bit into it. So let's say this is my front facing one. So I'm going to weave it around in the back. So I have a piece of tape that I put at the end of this yarn. And I'm just going through a couple of them and then going above and then going under again. So I am taking the little plastic wrapped end and going under a couple, and then I'm pulling it through. And I'm going under again. And then whenever you feel like you've gone far enough to kind of lock it into place, then you can just cut the end of your string and you have your glitter. So this is the completion of this craft. We've got a really good E coming along. And if you want to just put this aside and finish it up later, you can. We'll just go ahead and do the other tutorial pieces since we finished up this craft. And you can see that you can pretty much put it anywhere. You can put it on your bookshelf to mark your bookshelf. You can put it on front of your door. You can put it on a windowsill. And yeah, this is just an easy decoration that you can do at any time. It just requires a lot of patience and a lot of yarn. Okay. Now we're going to go back to, we have a piece of yarn with a bead, and I'm going to go ahead and mark one end of my yarn with bead. So I'm going to pull it through and just tie it off. So this is the end that I have to keep long. And if you know how to do a square knot, I recommend doing a square knot for all your ties. And what a square knot is a double tie or a double knot. But if you look at it, if you tie it one way, then think about how you tied it and then reverse that. So a square knot is a tie that is a double knot, but one side is always reversed to the other. And that makes it a stronger knot so it doesn't come loose as easily. All right, just trimming the tail. So I've got one end with a bead on it. And I'm going to leave that at the bottom. And then I'm going to take the top end without the bead. I'm going to wrap it around 2 fingers. I'm going to wrap it until I have about a book length left of the yarn. Am I doing the right one? Nope. This one. Now, in order to do this, you'll have to keep your fingers pretty much well apart, because you can actually make it tighter and tighter and tighter until it's practically a tourniquet, and we don't want that. So try and keep your fingers as apart as much as possible while you're winding it around your fingers. And I have a knot in mine, which is inevitable. There we go. Okay, so keeping 2 fingers apart, pinching and just wrapping, 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 wrapping. This one you don't have to worry about as much, because as long as you're keeping a little bit of distance between your fingers and you're wrapping all like in the first, yeah, between your first knuckle and that one, the joint of your finger, then you should be good to go. All right, so I have about this much left. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bead end, I'm going to pull this a little bit away from my fingers so that I can fit something between this point and this point. So I'm going to put the bead between the fingers here. And then I'm going to pull it tight across and pull it through my fingers again, so that it cinches here in the middle. So we want it to cinch. Now, as soon as you have that kind of wrapped around, you can go ahead and pull it off of your fingers, and you're going to tighten this more, and then you're going to knot it on itself. So you want to make sure that both sides are equal. As you cinch it together. So you kind of have a bow shape right now. And I don't feel like it's tight enough, so I'm going to see if I can do it again. So what I did is I put the bead underneath and I put it through the loop, and then I tighten. All right. Now we have loops on the left side and loops on the right side. So I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to start cutting the loops. So we're going to cut. And we want to make sure that we're not cutting the tail. We need that tail. That tail is important. We're just cutting the loops. So I'm going to fluff it out, see if I've got any more loops in there. Got one here. Got one here. All right, and then we're going to do the other side. Remember, cut the loops, not the tail. Pull the little piece out, that's okay. Another loop hidden in there. All right. So now you've kind of got a pom-pom, but it's not a very tidy pom-pom. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim the edges with our scissors to kind of make it more round. So this is basically hedge trimming right now, like you would do for your garden. This one seems a little long. And you'll notice that they're a lot longer towards this bottom part. I'm going to trim them significantly, careful of the tail, so that we get a nice round structure. Now, if you do cut the tail, what you're going to do is you're going to tie it to the loop that's in the middle. So you would just do something like find where the loop is and then tie it. And you'll notice that the closer that you cut to the center, the fluffier it's going to seem. Just don't do it too close or else it might come apart. So every once in a while, just fluff it out to make sure that all of them are kind of, all the long pieces kind of get out and aren't sticking in there. There we go. And now you have your pom-pom bookmark that you can put anywhere. And it's got the bead tail, so that will hang down and you'll be able to catch that. This is probably going to be for a bigger book than I anticipated, but that's fine. So this is our pom-pom bookmark. Nice and fluffy. All right. And now we're going to work on our yarn balloon. So you can go ahead and clear up the mess that you have, because we're going to be working with glue in this next project. And the last thing you want is to be dusted in leftover yarn pieces. That's a little too on the nose. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put that away. What I have done, I've put down a piece of paper on my setting so that I can make sure that the glue doesn't get anywhere else. But this glue is pretty safe. So if you have it and you just want to like pop it onto a table, it will peel right off after it's done. It's not like industrial strength glue. So if you get a little bit somewhere, don't worry about it. It's an easy glue. I'm just using Elmer's clear washable glue. Now, this is where you're going to need your scissors. And I feel like this is the most genius solution I've had to anything that requires a paper mache type setup. So we have our little bags of glue. And what we're going to do is I'm going to cut one little slit a little bit off center. And I actually have an X-Acto knife, so I'm going to use an X-Acto knife. But for you, if you just pinch the plastic a little bit off center and give it a quick snip, and then pinch it a little bit off center on the other side, directly parallel, and give it a little snip. You will now have a way to dip your yarn in your glue without having to make too much of a mess of your fingers. So this is also where that kind of niblet goes. So like, it's basically like a shoe end. If you wrap some tape around the end of your yarn, you'll be able to put it through the first hole and out through the second. And this is how we're going to wet. This is how we are going to wet our yarn with glue. So it's just going to go in and out of the glue like this, and you'll be able to see how much glue is on it on this side. So we're going to keep this flat on the table, and we're just going to press on it and pull it through. And you'll notice that it's really nice and wet with glue on it when it comes out. If you go too fast though, just to be warned, you want to do it nice and slow while there's pressure on it, or else you'll pull it up and make an air bubble and it won't be getting any glue. So push down, pull through slowly, and you'll get a good covering. we had a balloon here. So this balloon I have blown up to the size of my hand, not much bigger than that, because you'll see in my test one, it turned into a little bit of a nest because I made it slightly bigger. So we're gonna make it small. And the goal for wrapping this, first we're gonna tie it to the top. And what we wanna do is we want to crisscross as much as possible. And we're not gonna like weave as much as we can, because weaving will make things a little bit harder, because you'll have glue yarn, but as crisscross over as much as possible so that you can get a lot of connected points. You want those connected points because that will maintain the structure of your yarn balloon when you pop the balloon. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna tie this top part to the top so that we have a starting point. I'm gonna double tie it. And this is the side that's already coated in glue. So we're doing the glue side first. Okay. And now I'm going to keep pressure, pull out the yarn, make sure it's nice and wet. And you can go as far as your arm length. If you want to kind of soak it in, you can take a finger and just rub it in the glue so that it's saturated. And then you're just going to wrap. And then get to a point, make sure you press down, pull through. I'm getting a little bit of a tangle here with my pom-pom bookmarks. Get those out of the way. Wrap, pull through, and you're just going to do this until you run out of yarn. Make sure that you're doing it very tightly across your balloon so that you won't have any loose ends. And going round and across is a good idea. Drop my balloon. Fortunately, it's in a bag, so I can just pull it through again on this side and pull it slowly through again. I swear, I have done so many paper mache projects, and I feel like I have never been so not messy as when I have done this with this craft. So pull through. If you ever have to make a 3D model in class with paper mache, this will probably save you a lot of agony, just using a Ziploc baggie. Okay, so as much tension as possible. And then there's a big gap right here that I'm going to try and fix. Moving diagonally as much as possible is the best route for this. You don't want to have any quarter turns. If you have any quarter turns, then you'll probably have a structural, basically you'll lose the structural integrity of it when it dries. Now I've been coming up with different ideas of ways that you can use this once it's completed. And one of the ways that I've been thinking is, one, putting it outside and having it be like a little bird's nest. Another one is hanging it over a light. If you have a bare light bulb somewhere, just be careful that it's not touching the light when you put it on. That's only touching a safe source. this to go up and over. Some other things that you can do is you can put air plants inside if you want to have an air plant collection at home. I'm going to need to build more towards the top. One of the things I was thinking of doing was putting moss inside and turning it into a little fairy tree house, but that's just my nerd coming out. You can put some sticks inside and build like a little house. So I need to get some more near the top here. Overly ambitious. And I am getting to the end. Oh no. So I'm gonna make sure this has lots of blue. I'm gonna try and end it near the top so that I can kind of do a clean tie-in. So I've reached the end of the line. I have this last piece. It's close enough to the top that I'm just going to try and tie it to itself. Make sure it's nice and taut. Tie it to itself again. There you go. Completed. One of the things I do not recommend is taking glue and covering all the empty spaces with it. This is the one that I did, and I covered all the empty spaces with glue. I do feel like the yarn itself has a lot more structural integrity, but peeling off the balloon was problematic. So if you want to kind of add a little bit of extra glue now to any of the places where there is some cross sections so that you can kind of just ensure that those ones are secure. So the cross sections are probably where you'll need the most glue. So you can just take your bag and start squeezing some onto these little sections that are crossovers. And that will complete this. And you're going to want to wait about 24 hours before popping your balloon. It will be hard to pop the balloon for one reason, and that is because it's a smaller balloon. So you might have to go at it with like a very sharp needle. Scissors won't pop it right away. Side I have cuts in. Side. There. I'm just putting it where there's crossover. So I'll get some really sturdy connections. When you pop it, you'll probably have some glue from where you touched just kind of stuck. And it will kind of show us like clear and transparent. You can peel that off with no problem. We do want the background to be completely clear. The next craft that we will be doing is going to be in 2 weeks. We're going to be doing dragon eggs. So this is going to be a fun craft. There's sensory dragon eggs. So there'll be something that you can have at your desk when you're on your computer doing homework, and you can just kind of fiddle with it. And it will help you kind of maintain your concentration. And they're also really shiny. So, you know, double up on fun. I love shiny things. All right. I feel like this is going to be my most secure yet. Got lots of glue on the connections. And my hands are a disaster. My hands are covered in glue. Now at the end, you can just take any paper clip that you might have at home. Just bend out one side of that paper clip and then pull it through the top part where you have the knot. And then you don't want this to glue sitting down, you want it to glue hanging. So you'll go ahead and do that, pull all the way through, and then you'll have a Christmas ornament side where you can just kind of stick it to anything, to just hang it up to let it dry. Okay, so this is all that we have for this week's craft crate. I hope you are just as messy as I am, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Let me know if you have any questions in the meantime.